Look, let's be real. As of today, June 25th, 2025, our world isn't just one big happy family. It's more like a really dysfunctional family reunion where one cousin shows up in a private jet and another had to sell their plasma to afford the bus ticket. We are living on the same planet, but we're experiencing completely different realities. On one side, you have a world of unimaginable wealth, where money makes more money in its sleep. On the other side, you have a world where people are trapped in a cycle of poverty, working harder than ever just to stand still. This isn't an accident. It's the result of a system that's been designed to create these two separate, unequal worlds. The numbers are just wild. Think about this. The average person on the planet makes about 12,800 euros a year, but that average is a total lie. It's like saying the average temperature between the Sun and Pluto is kinda warm. If you live in North America, you're making about 3,500 euros a month. But if you're in sub-Saharan Africa, you're looking at around 240 euros a month. That's a 15 times difference. One group is ordering artisanal avocado toast delivered by a drone, and the other is trying to make a week's worth of food last for a month. This isn't just a gap, it's a canyon, a massive economic chasm that is splitting humanity in two. And when we talk about actual wealth, the stuff you own, not just what you earn, it gets even crazier. In the United States, a country that loves to talk about the American dream, the top 10% of households own over 2/3 of everything. That's all the stocks, the real estate, the fancy cars, everything. Meanwhile, the entire bottom half of the country, 50% of the population, owns less than 4% of the nation's wealth. That's not a typo. It means that for every dollar of wealth a person in the bottom half has, someone in the top 10% has mountains of cash. It's a level of inequality we haven't seen since the roaring 20s, right before everything came crashing down. This isn't just about some people having more money, it's about two completely different ways of life. It determines whether your kids go to a school with iPads and coding classes or a school that can't even afford to fix its leaky roof. It decides if you have access to world-class hospitals or if you have to wait in line for hours at an underfunded clinic. This divide affects everything: your health, your education, your safety, and your children's future. We are creating two distinct species of human, separated not by biology, but by their bank accounts. And the system that created this divide is still running, full speed ahead, making the gap wider every single day. So, how do the rich get richer? It's not just because they work hard. A lot of people work hard. It's because they are on an upward escalator, powered by a system that is built to serve them. The global financial system is like a VIP club, and if you're already rich, you get an all-access pass. Wealthy individuals and nations can borrow money at super low interest rates, while their investments in other countries bring in huge returns. It's a concept some economists call an exorbitant privilege. Basically, their money works for them, generating more wealth while they sleep, all thanks to rules that favor those who already have capital. Then there's the influence game. Across the globe, a majority of people believe that the rich have way too much power over politics. In 36 different countries, a median of 60% of people said this is a major reason for the economic gap, and they're not wrong. When you have billions of dollars, you can afford lobbyists, fund political campaigns, and shape laws to your benefit. This influence helps create tax loopholes that let billionaires pay a lower tax rate than their assistants. It ensures that regulations on big corporations are weakened, allowing them to maximize profits, often at the expense of workers or the environment. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. Money buys influence, and influence protects money. Let's not forget the role of big corporations in this. These global giants, many headquartered in wealthy nations, are masters at playing the system. They use complex legal structures to shift their profits to tax havens, tiny countries that charge little to no corporate tax. This allows them to avoid paying their fair share in the countries where they actually make their money. This starves public services like schools and hospitals of much-needed funds. So while these companies post record profits and their CEOs get massive bonuses, the communities they operate in are left struggling with underfunded infrastructure and social safety nets. The system is rigged to send profits up to the top. And it's a global phenomenon. Some of the world's richest economies are actually small countries that have built their entire model around being tax havens. They attract mountains of foreign cash, which artificially inflates their national income to levels 4 times the global average. This doesn't just benefit their residents, it creates a massive drain of resources from larger countries, both rich and poor. It's a global financial shell game where wealth is hidden, taxes are avoided, and the benefits flow to a very small, very wealthy elite. The escalator keeps going up, but only for those who are already at the top. Now let's flip the coin. If the rich are on an escalator, the poor are stuck on a treadmill that's tilted downhill. For hundreds of millions of people, life is a constant struggle against systems that seem designed to keep them down. A huge part of this is debt. Many of the world's poorest countries, a lot of them former colonies, are drowning in debt. They often end up paying more money to foreign lenders in interest than they receive in aid or investment. In 2023, a staggering 52 countries, home to 44% of the world's population, were spending more on debt payments than on either education or healthcare for their own citizens. This debt trap has devastating consequences. When a government has to send all its money to banks in other countries, there's nothing left for its people. This means broken roads, understaffed hospitals, and overcrowded schools. Children in these nations are trying to learn in classrooms without enough books or teachers, because the money that should have paid for those things is instead going to service a loan. Rich countries spend about 13% of their national income on social programs like healthcare and unemployment benefits. The poorest countries? They can only afford to spend 1.5%. This isn't a level playing field, it's a different game entirely. On top of the national debt, individuals are struggling with low wages that haven't kept up with the cost of living. People are working full-time jobs, sometimes 2 or 3 of them, and still can't afford basic necessities like housing, food, and healthcare. This creates a cycle of personal debt, where families have to take out high-interest loans just to get by. Meanwhile, the jobs available to them often lack benefits, security, or a path for advancement. The economic growth that we see on the news isn't trickling down. Instead, it's being siphoned upwards, leaving workers with a smaller and smaller share of the pie they helped create. This struggle is made even worse by deep-seated discrimination. All over the world, racial and ethnic minorities face systemic barriers that lock them out of opportunities. In the US, for example, the median net worth of a black household is just 16% of a white household's. That's a massive wealth gap driven by a long history of discriminatory policies in housing, education, and employment. 2/3 of people globally see racial discrimination as a major problem in their country. It's another layer of the system that ensures that for many, no matter how hard they run on that treadmill, they just keep sliding backward. So what does all this mean for the future? Well, people are starting to notice, and they are not optimistic. There is a wave of pessimism sweeping the globe, especially in wealthy countries. A median of 57% of people around the world believe that children today will be financially worse off than their parents. In places like the US, Japan, and France, that number is even higher. Parents are looking at this rigged system, with its soaring costs and stagnant wages, and they are genuinely scared for their kids' futures. The promise that each generation will do better than the last feels like a lie. This isn't just a feeling, it's a calculated reality. When governments are forced to choose between paying foreign debt and investing in their youth, the youth lose every time. The lack of spending on education and health in poorer nations directly impacts a child's ability to escape poverty. It creates a generation that is less healthy, less educated, and less prepared to compete in a global economy. This widens the gap, not just for today, but for decades to come. We are essentially predetermining the fate of millions of children based on where they were born, locking in inequality for another generation. The public's frustration is boiling over. A majority of people in 33 out of 36 surveyed countries believe their economic system needs major changes or a complete overhaul. This isn't a fringe opinion, it's a mainstream demand for reform. In the United States, 2/3 of the population wants to see the system significantly reformed. People are tired of seeing corporations and the super-rich play by a different set of rules. They see the connection between the immense wealth at the top and the widespread struggle at the bottom, and they are demanding a system that works for everyone, not just a select few. Ultimately, this growing divide is more than just an economic issue, it's a threat to social stability. When a large portion of the population feels like the system is rigged against them, trust in institutions collapses. It fuels anger, division, and political instability. The current path is unsustainable. The overwhelming public demand for change shows that people are ready for a new approach. They want a system that closes the gap between the rich and poor, invests in public services for all, and ensures that a child's future is determined by their potential, not their parents' bank account. The question is no longer if the system needs to change but how and when.